Let's discuss the Black Socrates. This takes us to a YouTube video as well.
So, all right, there's a there's a historical figure who many people don't know about.
No.
And then his impact is so immense. This is kind of sad, but we're gonna teach the people today. Please speak about Hubert Harrison.
All right. Hubert Harrison was a prominent, you can't even call him a civil rights activist. You could call him a thinker, an organizer, an orator, a writer. I mean, this guy, philosopher, he was like the traditional polymath is what the term is, right? He knew a lot about a lot of different things, spoke different languages, could read in different languages. I mean, but the thing is, nobody talks about this man. Nobody talks about him. He was a prominent figure in the American socialist movement in the early 20th century. Now he broke away. Now, what people when people say these terms or use these organizations or movements like socialism or capitalism, they think they were radical about everything, right? They're radical about class, they're radical about race, they're radical about gender, and that was not the case. Harrison found out during his time in the socialist movement that they were not as progressive about race as they talked or he thought they should be. So he broke away from that. And he started his own movement. You know, he was a very influential on Marcus Garvey. He was very influential on other Black radical thinkers in the early 20th century. He was a person who started organizations. He's a leader in a movement that was called the New Negro Movement. He started a publication called The Voice. He was a very influential writer, and when Garvey started the UNIA, he was a very prominent writer in that movement. So his role in the early Negro movement is immense and touch a bunch of different areas: the arts, literature, education. He would start these lyceums where groups of men and women would get together and really self-educate and read and debate and talk. Some people go to New York now, and it's as prominent as it used to be decades ago, but like the street corner preaching and those who would give lectures on the corner, he was an early proponent of that and was great at it and would captivate. See, the thing about Harrison that people have to recognize too, he was very concerned about reaching the masses, not only giving the message, but learning from the masses as well, right? Where organizations like the NAACP were kind of middle class focused, or he felt like the socialist organizations were more concerned with the middle class, or even the CPUSA, the communist movement, they were concerned with the middle class. He was always about those who are overlooked, the masses. Not only again what he could teach them, but what he could learn from them as well. And that's who his preaching and speeches were directed to. Now, he's problematic for a lot of persons because even today, because there are two things he was against that the African American community is still very ambivalent about today. Number one, capitalism. He was anti-capitalist. Number two, he's anti-church, anti-religion, period. Right? He was hardcore science, reason. He didn't want anything to do with religion, right? If it couldn't be proved by logic, he didn't want to touch it. And that made him somebody who was not very popular. Another thing that Harrison has to be credited for, what made him different from a lot of mainstream leaders, is that he did not want to take support from the white community for his organizations, right? He wanted to be Black, supported by the Black community. He wanted to focus on Black issues, and that kind of set him apart too as well. But yeah, overlooked figure, who was very influential on a lot of people who came. J.A. Rogers, A. Philip Randolph, Marcus Garvey. Well, Rogers and Randolph, if you read their writings, they talk about how brilliant he was and what a great speaker and orator he was. But if you read his writings, there's a collection of writings that are available. You get a book of them. I mean, man, he's everything. He wrote about everything, talked about everything, but greatly influential and overlooked.
All right. Question I have now. We spoke about the influence, right?
Yeah.
Some people argue that Marcus Garvey pirated his
Well,
ideas.
Harrison said that.
Harrison
Harrison said, he said everything good about the UNIA he took from the Liberty League as well. He took from the Liberty League.
Please elaborate on that. What are your views on that?
Well, I mean, Harrison was I think Marcus Garvey took from Harrison mainly with this race consciousness piece, Black pride, trying to uplift the black race in terms of his consciousness about not being the inferiority complex that many African Americans were experiencing at that time. But he was also an internationalist. He was looking at making connections, for instance, between the Caribbean community and the African American community in this country, where there's been a rift or wedge between those communities throughout history. Another thing that he was focused on is that he did not believe that African Americans had the role of going to redeem Africa. He believed that if Africa was going to change, it's going to be on what Africans did for themselves. All right. Now, he differed from Garvey. Some of it was personal, some of it was philosophical. He thought Garvey was an egomaniac. He didn't like how Garvey handled his finances. He thought that Garvey inflated a lot of things that he was talking about when he gave his speeches and so forth. So he broke away from Garvey after a period of time as well. Another part that they differ with, Harrison was not really a firm believer in something like a vanguard, a leadership that was going to bring black people out of their condition. He was a believer in the masses doing for themselves, a community doing for itself. So he was not a fan of, Du Bois' talented tent. Like it's going to be the educated elite of the African American community that are going to change things. He didn't believe in that. He didn't believe in Garvey's view that, some leader was going to come out, again, the Black Messiah thing. Some Black Messiah was going to come in and change the conditions of African Americans. And he saw Garvey, I think he saw it as a little dangerous, that Garvey thought he was kind of some Messiah figure who was going to lead people back to Africa to change their condition. So they're different on many things, but again, he himself said that if there's anything good about the UNIA, Garvey got it from me. And again, the organizations that he started, the Liberty League and the Voice, as far as the paper. And by the way, the Liberty League, I think, was the first mass Black radical organization in this country. And Hubert Harrison started that. All right. So they had their differences, but again, the influence that he had on various leaders was immense.
And why do you think history has kind of left them out of the pages?
Everything that we value in this country is being important. The two major things: the the value of capitalism, and the religion. He was against both of those, so he's not appealing in any way. He did not, again, seek support from the white community, and he was against many of the leaders that have been upheld throughout history. He was against Booker T. Washington and the Tuskegee Machine. He was not a fan of Du Bois. For instance, I don't know if some of you or people watching this may know, Du Bois wrote this piece called "Closing Ranks" when he was trying to get a job with the government. And he was basically telling the African American community to, I think the line he was like, put aside your petty grievances or something, like overlook all the racism and all the torment to support the war effort. This was all about. And Harrison basically said that because Du Bois wrote that piece, he's unfit to be a leader in the African American community, right? Because the compromise, we're going to overlook all this and support the war, basically because you want to get you're trying to get a government job, where the case may be. And another thing, he was immensely critical of a lot of people and a lot of philosophies, and that rubs people the wrong way. So I think that's another reason why. I mean, he wasn't really supportive of a lot of the movements that we support today. I thought were so grand back in the early 20th century.
Yeah. So I see where Real Black Gentleman was saying some stuff in the chat. Let's start with Real Black Gentleman. Let's discuss the Black Socrates. And by the way, I think who was it? Trigger Happy 262 maybe, or Nama X said it. This trapping of this black man in this European concept of Socrates, that's problematic too. But I get the gist of what's being said. Real Black Gentleman, let's discuss the Black Socrates. What say you?
Oh man, I'm not with it. I look. I think Garvey was. I mean, him talking about like the masses should just spontaneously, upright, elevate their how. I mean, people need to be sparked. There needs to be a catalyst. People tend to do that. It's like I don't even get what like. It's like I'm not with like when people reflexively use one ism against another ism without even breaking down both isms. It's like, yo, it's like I'm not with that. I don't see like myself trying to define myself in social. I mean, again, to me, it's simple. It's very, very clear when, you know what I'm saying, you work and you play. I mean, it's like socialism. I mean, socialism is play and capitalism is like work. It's like, I don't know. It's like trying to like make Garvey out to be some he, you know, it's this again. He said, I mean, someone who described him as an egomaniac. Are you serious? I mean, it's like, I mean, dude, this is like you have to be boisterous. There's nothing wrong with having a big voice. I mean, really? I mean, I mean, it's like if you want to like have worldwide vision, you have to have a big scheme of things. I mean, Garvey said some real bold stuff, man. That's why I mean, it's like when he had the interview with the dude and talking about, well, we'll have a lynching party out here tonight. There's 5 million trees. Man, 95% of world is not on that level 100 years later. It's just, he was like, do you know you'll be lynched? You know what I'm saying? It's like Garvey was thorough, dude. It's like, I mean, it's his vision and his company is still the, you know what I'm saying, you upgrade it, you renovate some ideas for, you know what I'm saying, 100 years later, it works. You build up, you know what I'm saying, you organize people, you organize businesses, you make connections with Africa in the Caribbean. You get some boats. I mean, you should have some boats. I mean, that's the thing about Garvey, the Black Star Line. I want boats. I want black people to talk about having boating companies. I want black people to have shipping magnates. I want a whole bunch of just a fleet. I would just want to see black people with a fleet of boats, with hundreds of boats just out there on the ocean. You know what I'm saying? With the GPS, so we ain't gonna drown. You know what I'm saying? Good life vessels in case you might have to float out there. I'm just saying it should be, you know what I'm saying, up there. That's Garvey. When I think about Garvey, I see it. It's like all this other stuff is just like, man, like, look, Garvey had the sauce. I mean, and yeah, he didn't come from America. It doesn't matter because, you know what I'm saying, ultimately, when you break it down, you talking about black people trying to elevate. If you a black person, you trying to have any kind of connection to history and to Africa or anything like that, I don't see how you disregard Garvey like that. I mean, I don't know. I'm past.
I appreciate that, real black gentleman. In the chat, Bakari said humans are herd animals, and every herd has a leader. No leadership is what we have today. Look at us with no leadership. Bakari, talk about it.
Oh, when the guy was quoting and said Hubert Harrison said no leader, just the mass of people, it doesn't work like that. It just don't work like that. You hear people saying that today, oh, we don't need no leader, everybody lead themselves. But every group, every animal, they have leaders. And look at the people who don't have leaders. Sometimes I think we are fighting the system, but in actuality, we're fighting ourselves, right? No one else should choose our leaders. We should choose our leaders, right? We choose who we want to follow. We will not just follow, work with, and be cool with, and someone who's accountable to the people. You know, that if that's what we choose. But to say we shouldn't have any leaders and everybody just go, that's what we're doing now. Literally, if you look at it, that's what we're doing now. So now, and look where it has us. We're scared to go in our communities and talk to our youth. We ain't got no leaders, or the youth ain't gonna listen to you because we don't have no leadership. Everybody is doing what they want to do, right? So now, when he said he was a socialist, and this is for my good brother Carl, and I wish Keithway was listening, how he got away from socialism. But he said he was against capitalism, but obviously he was okay with Garveyism, which I tell black people that is the thing for black people to do, because he was in it and he realized this ain't for black people. There's no racial consciousness in socialism. With Garveyism, there was racial consciousness. He was an editor of the Negro World. I don't see how he say Garvey got everything from him. They were around at the same time. And it's okay if Marcus Garvey learned some stuff from the Black Socrates, that is okay. Because we're supposed to learn from one another. It is okay to learn from someone. I can learn from Carl. If Carl is teaching something good that I think can benefit our people, what's wrong with me using Carl's idea to help benefit my people? That shouldn't be a knock. Ooh, Garvey carpet me, but they call you the Black Socrates, so you must carpet somebody. Now I'm not knocking him because I'm going to look and study him more, and I'm going to be honest. I've heard his name before, maybe once or two times, one or two times. I'm being honest. I don't know much about him, but I am going to look him up and I'm going to study him. But we have to get out of one to be the ultimate leader. Our leaders and our organizations should be working together. I'm not a socialist. Do I believe there's some good things to socialism? Yes. Do I believe there's some good things to capitalism? Yes. But I practice Garveyism. But will I work with Carl? He's a socialist. Yeah, I would still work with Carl because Carl is still black and he's still a brother. What I have that he can use, he should be willing to use it. Because what he have that I can use, we will be willing to use it. And that's how it's supposed to be. But I'm not going to get mad and call someone an ego maniac or whatever. We can't be mad and talk about the ultimate leader. Uh, I'm not a big fan of what some people would call the talented 10th, but I do understand where I don't agree with the talented 10th. They're going to be the leader because education is going to get you out of this. No, but I do understand that and know, okay, we do need education. So we need education to do certain things. You know, I may say leaders are for Christians. I guess everybody in the world is a Christian except black people because everybody got leaders. It doesn't make sense, right? But I just read the first part of that. But anyway, but that's what I think. So there are some things that the brother just said about the Black Socrates that I agree with. And there's some things that he said about the Black Socrates that I don't agree with. I don't agree with telling black people you don't need a leader. That's absolutely asinine. That's absolutely asinine. And anybody who thinks somebody did something without a leader, without proper leadership. See, when you say a leader is not necessarily one person. So that's why I had to switch it up and say proper leadership. You have leaders. Every country has leaders. Like these black people who talking about, I'm gonna say this, then I'm gonna close, I'm gonna yield the mic. Like these black people now who want to work with Russia. Russia has leaders. So the people that don't have leaders, the people that have leaders have things in order. The people without leaders want to bow to them and work with them and say, yeah, those people should be our friends. So the people with leadership is going to dominate the people without leadership. Because when you have leadership, you have organization, and you have strategized. The people without leadership is just running around like a chicken with their head cut off. On that note, I yield the mic.
Bakari, it's funny. Recently, you saw Malema. Malema was kind of protecting Putin and Russia, and now I think recently, like today or yesterday, he has a kind of LGBTQ stance. It's strange. But Bakari, before you go, I want to ask you. One time on Shoot the Breeze, there was a brother who came on the panel, and it turns out like y'all from like the same town. Did you end up building any further with that brother?
No, I gave him my email. I don't remember him hitting me. I had to go through my email. I don't remember him hitting me. I wish he would come back. We were from the same town. Well, I'm from Glen Island. He knew where I was from, but he was from Green. He was from the South Side. Yeah, I knew exactly where he was from, but no, we haven't. And let me say this right quick. Norma X put in the chat. Mali didn't liberate itself with a leader. It liberated themselves by the masses of people. But the masses of people have proper leadership so they can. I have no idea why that's so hard for black people to understand. I really don't have an idea why that's so hard for black people to understand that you need proper leadership to do something. We are heard. I know they don't like when I say animals, and I understand why, because of everything that have been said about us, monkeys, apes, gorillas, all that nonsense. but we're mammals. And you have leaders. We are herd animals. And every herd is going to have leaders. It has protectors. And that's what we don't understand. No group of people just went out there and said, yeah, we the mass of people and we going to do the same thing. No, that is something they talked about. That is something that the leadership was putting out there. But like I said, I'm going to say this once again before I yield the mic. The same people who think they don't need leadership, want to ally with people that has leadership. And I wonder, once that group with leadership decide to turn on the people without leadership, the people without leadership gonna easily start selling one another out. You need leadership. I don't know why black people are so against saying, yes, we have leadership. That is absolutely asinine. That's absolutely insane to me. I don't get that. I don't understand that at all. Well, we shouldn't have. I don't get that shit at all.
Let's hear from Carl next.
So I wasn't too familiar with Harrison myself, but he's against religion. He's pro-socialism. He sounds like my type of guy. But his point about revolution coming from the masses of people, I think he was a little bit ahead of his time. It sounds like. Now, I believe that we do need leaders, but more so than we need, just as much as we need leaders, we also need the right ideology. Because too many times, once they kill our leaders, the entire organization falls apart. What happened when Malcolm X created two organizations before his death, and then once he was killed, those organizations fall apart. So we need the right ideology along with the right leadership as well. So I think there needs both. But I think where he was in opposition to Du Bois, who believed in the talented 10th, these 10% of black people who get educated and come back and uplift the other 90%. But even Du Bois was against the talented 10th or as time progressed because he lived to be 95. So he understood that his whole idea about talented 10 was nonsense because these black people go to these white institutions or even black institutions to educate themselves, but when they come back, they don't contribute to the well-being of the masses of black people. So Harrison more so was opposed to Du Bois in that instead of educating a small talented 10th, you know, you kind of have to educate everybody. And also too, his problem with the white socialists is that they believe the major problem is class, it's not race. And as a black man, especially a black man living in his period of history, we understand that's bullshit. Um, Same thing that I believe it was Asada Shakur, Angela Davis had when she was a member of the Communist Party. These people, they're so focused on class, they're not interested in the racial aspect of things. So how are we going to organize with the white proletariat when the white proletariat is racist? They're not. They don't care about us. Their racial concerns have more to do than with their class issues. So, but he sounds like an interesting man. His opinions on Garvey is a little shocking, but just Garvey and Du Bois had beef. They had famous insults with each other, just like his Harrison guy. He seems to think that he contributed more to the UNIA, but it's not about who contributed what to the UNIA. Is that where black people are oppressed, everyone should work towards their liberation. So does it really matter if Garvey took some stuff from you? Maybe it's not important. What's important is that you liberate your people. So I would like to learn more about him. I especially like the fact of him being anti-church, anti-religion. He understood that Christianity has done as much to enslave African people as any chains, any weapon, any type of physical bondage, just a mental bondage. And I think that for his time period, that's a very astute analysis that a lot of people just weren't willing to take. That's one thing they're not going to give up is white Jesus. That's the one thing they're not giving up. They will give up anything else. But white God, oh no, we're not giving him up. So I think for him to have that perspective is I really like that about him. Kind of like Carlos Cooks was an atheist as well. So just want to know more about him. But I think he made a lot of sense, and in hindsight, he made some errors. But with the limited knowledge I have about him, and it makes sense why he's not mentioned in history, because he did take the stance against capitalism. He did take a stance against religion. Two things that Black people still hold close to them. And I think as time goes on, he's going to be proven that he was right about that. All right. Thank you, Kofi.
All right, thank you
Took
for
a
that.
stance against socialism too. I had to say it. I apologize.
I love socialism. I love socialism.
He took a stance against socialism too.
He took a stance against the socialists, not socialism itself.
I had to. I'm sorry, Koku.
I know.
I had to take a shot at Carl. My bad. I'm sorry.
No problem. In the chat, Oni said herd animal is poignant. Bakari mentioned that earlier on in the chat too. Oni, what say you to this?
Okay, so let me say this just to Bakari's point. So some lady, we're a little intimate, I guess, and she decided to give me some children's books or something. I don't know. For my son, right? Not for me. So I'm going over one of them about animals, and I asked my son, what's your favorite animal? He says elephants. I'm like, cool. So then it's like this page. There's a lot of information on elephants, different types of elephants, all that kind of stuff. I didn't really know. I actually took a picture of it. I was going to say, why can't Black people like this? But I didn't. I decided, let me not post that. Let me not be negative. But the elephants travel in herds, okay? And when the oldest woman dies, or when the leader dies, then the oldest woman takes, I guess, her place. These elephants form, like they're herd animals, and they form organization based off of their own tradition. Now obviously, not every animal has the same tradition. Obviously, lions would follow men and that kind of stuff, right? But the thing with the socialist mindset is that Karl Marx introduced this really interesting idea that was patently false, right? Essentially, there's this idea of how history moves. And so before Karl Marx, and I'm not saying exclusively before Karl Marx, but one thing that Karl Marx bigs up or rejects is this great man theory. And instead he's like, no, I guess with Hegel, they're like, no, it's really conditions that make people move, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, if you get caught up in the condition mindset, in the material, the Hegelian materialism, if you say, the dialectical materialism, all that kind of stuff. If you get caught up in that, you're going to come to the wrong conclusion. And so as we see from the Garvey situation with Hubert Harrison, even if Hubert Harrison was this brilliant guy, even if he was, right, what we see is essentially, as Brother Bakari said, was that realistically we're herd animals. So you have Garvey, the powerful orator, okay, the powerful, considered the best speaker, the best orator of his time, right? And then you have Hubert Harrison, who, let's just, if we're going to believe his biography, right? I posted the biography in the chat. If we're going to believe his biography, he's the best thinker of his time, right? And the reality is that you're not thinkers, if you will. We're animals. We're herd animals. And so we're going to go to the best leader. And so, when I'm listening to this guy and, oh, he had this influence on that influence and that influence, the historian has this romanticized view of history, okay? And they don't look at it from a realistic perspective. I'm using that word because of Buana, right? But they have this romantic view where this person is so influential, ergo they're so great. Everybody's praising them, they're so great. But like we could find, people today that we could praise and say they're great and they're influential in multiple circles, and it really doesn't mean anything. What really meant something, I'm not saying I don't want to study the guy too, because I remember some dude used to be like, yo, you study this guy, you should look into this guy, you should look into this guy. And I just never did. But and this presentation did make him seem interesting. But what I'm saying is that, yeah, we have people today who are, like somebody could easily say, in the future, somebody could say Boyce Watkins, was a brilliant man. He was the best blah, and he's blah blah. It's like, yeah, like, yeah, 100 years, if people were talking about today, they might talk about Boyce Watkins and his influence, and they might get a quote from Koku, because Koku said this before. Koku said, "Yeah, I used to listen to Boyce Watkins heavily." Right? You can get a quote from Koku. So if Koku is this big guy in the future, 100 years from now, right? They're gonna be like, "Well, y'all should go read Boyce Watkins," right? Boyce Watkins, and it's like, but what does that even fucking mean? It's just humans have this experience, they have these lives, and they're influential. He's an intellectual. He's established in the Harlem area. Yeah, he has that sort of stuff. But again, Garvey is the orator. Garvey is the voice, and Garvey gets the action done. Garvey gets the I don't know the number, I can't remember, maybe millions of people across the world. And then this dude poo-poos on him. Oh, everything he did good was for me. Shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? Like, shut the fuck up. No disrespect.
Just slide to the side.
Just slide to the side. I mean, if you know what I'm saying? Like if or like, I know somebody pretty popular now that people give credit to all the time, Amos Wilson, right? Amos Wilson's pretty popular, right? But imagine if we find out that some dude, like, let's say in his lifetime, Khalid Muhammad became some big deal, right? If Amos Wilson was like, man, everything that Khalid Muhammad says, I said that shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why everybody rocking with him, everybody in his organization. I said that. We'd be like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, we need that sort of leadership. Stop, like you sounding stupid. And for what it's worth, Amos Wilson, he never said anything like that. I never heard him say anything like that. But it's like, that's what we hear. We hearing some dude get outclassed by a real motherfucker, right? And then getting outclassed, not even saying, oh, not even just shutting the fuck up. That like that's what it is. That's like that old school conscious beef, but it's in fact, I think we heard that with Umar and Tariq. We heard that with Umar and Tariq, where Tariq said, man, I put that motherfucker on the map. And that sound corny. Like what is the what is the battle? What is the struggle? Right? What are you trying to accomplish? And if it's for people to say, if is it Liberty League or is it Liberty Hall? Right? Because Liberty Hall is where the millions got the message. Liberty Hall is where people were losing their lives over this stuff. People got the death penalty for reading for reading the Negro World out in the open. Meanwhile, we already done forgot you. In fact, the quote from J.A. Rogers about Hubert Harrison in this biography I put up, he says, people don't even know this motherfucker in J.A. Rogers' time. And I'm not saying that as a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying, like we have to recognize, and I mean, obviously somebody might say, well, Garvey was kind of forgotten too. Not really, but still, we got to recognize what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And like, if you're going to call Garvey with a big inflated ego, and I'm not saying he didn't, but if you're going to do that, at least, as y'all boy Jesus, I guess this guy's an atheist, so he don't got it, but y'all boy Jesus said, get that speck out of your damn eye. Get the log out of your own eye, because you sounded mad egotistical. No disrespect. Although I sound like he's a good guy though, but like, no disrespect.
Is that from Tanzania?
Yes. For me, I would say the first thing is that two people can have different viewpoints, and they can both be right to some extent. So, I actually did not know about Herbert Harrison, and so this is a first for me, and it's quite interesting actually. So I didn't know that there were people who were already thinking about religion and so on at that time. So I'm going to have to read a bit more about him. But from what I just looked up and from what the prompt was about, he did have some very interesting ideas that I wish that had been brought forward as not a challenge but an alternative or a different way of looking at things, because not everyone is going to think alike, not everyone is going to have the same way of doing things, and some people may not be in one thing, maybe because they have not found the particular incentive to join. So I think he had some good ideas, and he should have been added to the canon of African American history. The one thing that I would say is that we shouldn't look at just being anti something. We should look at it as being critical of aspects of capitalism, let's say, and tying those to the system of racism that Black people endure. So, which are valid criticisms. So, I think he had good points, and sometimes maybe it's good to have what I wouldn't say a leader. I think it should be good to have different ideas, not so much leaders, but ideas or proponents of ideas, so people can choose and dissect different information and different ideas and see which one works, and not to throw everything away that doesn't, but see if that can be used. Maybe he was ahead of his time, maybe those were not ideas that were going to be well received at the time, and so on. So, and even the whole of this Western canon, even the philosophy I had, he's being called a Black Socrates. I didn't really get that from from what I heard about him or read. I think he's a thinker. A philosopher is somebody who comes up with a system built on other systems, and I don't really think we have. Well, Teze would disagree, but I don't really think we have that. I think we have people who have thought about our problems and solutions and have proffered their solutions to what they see as a problem. And he had some very good ideas. So I will give him that, even if someone disagrees with how you look at things, whichever view that you take. I think that you should still be able to look at the critiques and be able to answer them, or dismiss them and say no, this is not correct because of 1, 2, 3. So his criticisms of Gavi, I don't really know. And everyone is allowed to, so you're allowed to answer your critics, but everyone is allowed to criticize you, I suppose. So I don't think that they were maybe differing in in aim, maybe in strategy, perhaps. And yeah, so he seems like an interesting person. Yeah.
All right, Tanzan, thank you for that. Um, let's hear from Buana.
Yes, sir. So there's a few things that I want to mention. First, if we don't like to call him Black Socrates because he's coming here, history calls him the Black Socrates, but that's neither here nor there. But if we want to get out of that Western paradigm, we shouldn't call him Hubert Harrison either, because that's also a European name, and and he should maybe be called. And that's not an African name. So if we're gonna not call him Black Socrates, maybe we can call him Hubert Harrison. That's neither here nor there. In terms of organization, I have found in listening to this that a lot of the our early leaders and thinkers was big on organizations. They was very, very big on organizations. And I think that currently, we have this idea of rugged individualism. We have a whole bunch of Indians and not necessarily no chiefs right now. And we could take a page, because I'm guilty of rugged individualism and having those ideas as well. But I think that we should take a page from history in understanding that these brothers was very, very steeped in organization. But I think the problem becomes that uh, everybody wants to be the man up front. You know, in our community, we say that they call it the head nigga in charge. You know, head nigga in charge, and everybody wants to be up front. And they don't understand it. When you are nation building, you could be a genius, yes, but why don't express that genius within an organization? You make that organization stronger. You see, Trump is the president, but Trump is not the smartest person in the room. It's the people around him who make him as strong as he is. And so goes for all the other presidents because they work towards one specific aim, which is making the nation of the United States the strongest nation in America. So they express that brilliance within that organization that is in the so-called presidential administration. They should follow suit, do the same kinds of things. You know what I mean? If yes, you are a genius, but the bigger picture is not to express your ego and be the N-word in front. The bigger picture is the nation build. So you express that genius within an organization. What made Malcolm X so intelligent is not necessarily that he was autodidactic. It was because that he had John Henry Clark them around him. So he not only had his own genius, but he used those geniuses as well. You know what I mean? So when he came up before people, many of the things that he was expressing these things because he was a geniuses, and that's what made him so an elite person. And in terms of Gavi, the Hubert Harrison, considering this guy egomaniac, you can't lead any black organization without having some level of ego. You know what I mean? You can't be a leader without having some level of ego. But if you take it within our community itself, you can't be a leader in our community with having some degree of ego. You know why? Because one of our favorite sayings within our community is, "Who does this nigga think he is?" So you must have an answer for that. An answer for that is potent enough to say, "I am this." I am to counteract that, because if you don't have that level of ego, if you don't have that level, they will beat you up until you are. They'll just beat you up until you can't get beat up no more. You know what I mean? And particularly within our community, because we don't respect black leadership, and these are things we have to fight for, as opposed to someone else coming in our community with a different kind of face, and they could just say things and we willfully accept it. You know, we have to fight for our leadership. So he should have been an egomaniac, yes, especially when you lead a millions of Negroes who have that philosophy in their mind, or who does this Negro think he is? But I think that, and Oni could correct me if I'm wrong on this, because he has his book. I think that one of the issues between him and Gavi is I think that Hubert Harrison get his first wife, get an affair with Gavi's first. So I think that was one of the biggest issues between them two. You know, that was the falling out, and history doesn't necessarily say that, but I think that was really one of the underlying issues between Harrison and Gavi. But both of them was as men, but ultimately at the end of the day, Gavi had the show. You know, he won the show. So it would people consider him as intelligent, but an intelligent man would get up behind that brother and empower that organization, make it more stronger. You know what I mean? Make it more stronger in ways that he could. You know, this is what intelligent men do. They don't start off their own unpopular enclave when very few people will listen to what you have to say at that time. Come on, brother. You know what I mean? Intelligence is what intelligence does. You know, not necessarily what it expresses through your mouth, because anybody could sound intelligent when they're talking. Or when and paper is a thing, because you say, well, this guy wrote a lot of books. Paper and pen is a thing. Is paper lay down on the table and let you write all over it. That don't necessarily make you intelligent. Intelligent is what you do. But I'll stop there and let the brothers them go.
Wait, sorry, what'd you say about him and Garvey's wife? What did you say?
I read somewhere that I think that Hubert Harrison had an affair with his first wife. Now you could correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think I read that somewhere. It might be the wrong particular gentleman, but I think it was Harrison.
Dang, no. I just downloaded the book. I ain't read it yet.
Yeah.
Okay, bro. You know he all right in my book.
So, hey, let me say so.
Go ahead.
it's hard to have, and I don't know who said this. I think I was about putting in the chat, but I agree. It's hard to have racial pride and be a socialist, because when you're a socialist, you're actually for everybody, right? And you can't just focus on you. Even now, as I was reading a little bit about Hubert Harrison, skimming through, his thing was he wanted the socialist workers people of the world or something like that. But it was clearly for everybody. And my thing is, right, when you can't feed yourself, but you trying to make sure everybody else eat, I think that's a problem, because at the end of the day, we are the ones that end up getting eaten. Like when Carl mentioned the Black Panthers earlier, it was talking about them carrying weapons, right? But what happened? Did any of those other people that was in that socialist movement with the Black Panthers, did you hear anything about the White Panthers getting killed or going to prison? Did you hear anything about the Asian Panthers getting killed or going to prison? Did you hear anything about the Jewish Panthers getting killed by the police or going to prison? The people that end up getting eaten in these organizations and destroyed are the Black people who's reaching their hand out for everybody, trying to be their friend. But what we're doing, we're actually being used by other people to further their movement. And for some strange reason, I understand why Black people here would say they're against capitalism. Whether I agree with it or not, I don't have to agree with it or disagree with it to understand it. I understand when you look at slavery. I understand when you look at how everybody in this country, how all these white people in this country got rich off the backs of African slaves, right? But I don't understand when we talk about socialism, why when we talk Native Americans have to be mentioned, because they got rich. Those tribes are rich today. They get money today. But this country is able to give them off the backs of African slaves. They were slave owners. They were slave catchers. But when it comes to us, let's stand up and say, we for all of the poor folks. But when you look at them poor white folks, it was the poor white folks. I'm going to say it one more again for you. It was them poor white folks that was coming in lynching. It was the poor white folks that was burning stuff down. But then we gonna turn and say, but we got to be for all poor folks. No. And until I hear a socialist, and I don't care who it is, say I'm for Black people, I'm fighting for Black people, I can't ever rock with that movement, because I have never heard one said, and one would never say it. And it was actually brought here to go against. It was actually brought here to go against what Marcus Garvey and the UNIA was doing. It was I like Kwame Ture. I respect Kwame Ture, but I would tell you this. He left Oakland not because other people was involved in the socialist movement. So once again, this is something else that happened with Black people because of our inferiority complex, because we like to scream white supremacy and don't think words have meaning. He left Oakland because other people was in charge of the Black Panther Party. You can find her interviews where the Japanese guy was laughing at him. Actually, Tony Aoki, who was a CIA agent, and that's another thing when it comes to the socialists. We only mention the Black people that sold them out. Everybody know William O'Neill, but they don't ever mention the other people who was in the organization who was selling them out. Tony Aoki was a CIA agent, but he was actually like giggling when he was talking about, yeah, we gave them guns, and yeah, they would come and ask me what they needed to do, and they wanted me to lead the organization. And that's what happened when Black people team up with other Black people. I learned, like Carl said, his parents taught him. My parents taught me, and I learned a long time ago from the time when I was a little boy. And I was asking, my dad had learned me alone. Don't ever think you're going to have a white friend or no white people that really got your back. I never forget this story. It's like, I never forget it. And he was on his job. And he was like, it was this white guy that used to march with them, talking about Black people deserve or the right to vote and so on and so forth. And as they are working, my daddy got promoted on a job and put in a position over him. Those same white people y'all think got y'all back. Just like that dude told me, I said, Dad, why you don't deal with them at all? Period. He said, they ain't there to help us. That white boy said, I want black folks to get the right to vote. But it ain't now color man smart enough to be my boss. And that's become the problem. And you can't show me a socialist movement in this country. You can't show me a socialist nowhere. You can show me what the Thomas Sankara, he had his own country, but they reached out to the mother white folk. We can go through, and it's gonna always be that way. And you sure can't show me nothing in this country what the so-called socialist movement has done for their people here, or trying to build toward Africa and build toward the Caribbean greater. And Carl, I have called you out on my channel a couple of times, not in a negative way. I say it in a friendly way, and you probably didn't even know I had a channel, but I don't call your name a couple of times. But you can't show me where it ever did anything for the masses of black people like Marcus Garvey in the UNIA. Never, not here. You cannot show it. And on that, I yield the mic.
I want to say this.
Check out the other shows on KWAZ Radio. I'm sure everyone would appreciate you dropping by during their shows too. Only wanted to add something.
Yeah, so I didn't know what Barner was talking about because I was just joking. I don't know what Barner was talking about, but yeah, it looks like I opened up this book because I just downloaded it because this topic came up, and it's like they're talking about Hubert Harrison. They're like he also was a man of amorous affairs, including interracial affairs, and one with Garvey's first wife, Amy Ashwood, and he at times practiced a sexual double standard. These more personal matters hurt his home life, and despite his great love for his children, caused a relationship with his wife Lynn suffer some particular difficult times. But yeah, man, this dude was a fucking animal or some shit. Like messing with Garvey's first wife. I hope it wasn't while Garvey was married, but like, damn, like,
yeah, that's heavy. It was heavy when Buana said it, and now that you went and looked it up, yeah, that's heavy. That is heavy. Anyway,
this is the reason why I don't try to romanticize history, because mine is mine is mine. You know what I mean? So I don't romanticize it.
Yeah. Did I get everyone in that prompt? Does anyone have any last words for that prompt?
Well, I'm gonna say I don't know if you guys can tell. I'm a little sick, so I might have to. What you say?
I can tell. You
guys can tell. Yeah, so I guess I'm gonna dip and go get some whatever. And I think tomorrow I might, Brother McCarthy's not gonna like it, but I might be talking about China. So it is what it is. I gotta explain my yellow tint, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, man.
Hey, let me say this right quick before I go. Hey, Carl, like I said, because I'm gonna get up because I got to get up early in the morning, man. But Carl, when I said your name on my channel, like I said, I never said it in a disrespectful way. I'm like, I wish Carl was here so we could have this discussion.
Of course, your show's on Friday, right?
Yeah, I've never said your name in a disrespectful way. I was
on Friday, so if you ever want to hit me up,
voice.
I'll be happy to join you on there.
Hey, give your email and I'll give you my. I'll just send you my thing, and you can subscribe, and yeah, you can come through something. Because I'm gonna be honest. In all honesty, when I say what I say about socialists, I can, like I say, I can use ideas from other aspects. Like I said, I agree with parts of socialism, not with all of it. I agree with parts of capitalism because we need capital, not all of it. I agree with Garveyism. That's my stick, and I'm gonna stick to that. That's what I think black people. That's what black people should be doing. Hey, but Koku, thank you for letting me speak. I'm gonna stop raising my voice on your panel at people with my passion. I believe they think about when I come, they run. It's Zulu. I thought
you need to stop raising your voice.
he put in the chat, oh shit, Bakari, here I'm out. And he literally bounced. Like, damn, guys, they done all ran from me. And I ain't trying to make nobody run. It's just passion. They talk loud. I guess I can talk a little louder. I'm from the country. I talk loud anyway. So when Intwa de Mela, when they hear the lion roar, they run. But I'm gonna stop doing that because I don't want nobody to think I ever disliked anybody that was on the panel. Guys or Zuli, actually loud conversations with passion. Shit, that's good to me. I like them, but but I think they took it the wrong way as if it was some type of beef, and I don't have no beef with nobody. I disagree with some things that they say, but other than that, Azuli say too much passion for him. Hey, I'm gonna say, Azuli, I'm glad you finally said something. Azuli, you got passion too. And my voice is deeper than yours, and you run. But I'm gonna say this: I went to the baseball game the other night, Azuli. Not only was I the best second baseman in the stadium, I realized I'm literally the best baseball player in the state of Georgia after watching the Padres versus the Braves. I'm just that damn. At 51, man, I can still do it. On that note, I'm gonna listen till I fall asleep because I got to get up early in the morning, man. Peace and one love.
Yes, thank you for coming through, Bakari.
Well love, Bakari.
Yes, sir. Thanks for coming through, Oni. You guys check out Oni in the morning. You
Yes,
know what I'm
one
going
love,
to do?
one love.
I'm going to drop Shoot the Breeze topic number 6. But what I want to do, take a minute for station ID break. So what we'll do that real quick. And on the other side, we'll be discussing Shoot the Breeze topic number 6. The FBI watches music videos too. You guys stay tuned.